I'm Darren Ng. I'm the Executive Director of LAVA. Thank you for joining us. I'll kill some time while I'm still watching the numbers go up. Tell you a little bit about LAVA. I'm relatively new as the Executive Director. I've got a little bit new of a vision. So if you thought you knew LAVA 6 months ago, we're definitely a different organization, focusing on the whole ecosystem of the venture space and centering it on the intersection between VCs and angels. And I see it as a giant mesh network of different siloed communities. Our role is to facilitate the communication, collaboration, and deal flow between each of the different communities, and to really help facilitate efficient deal flow in all the different spaces. The second role for LAVA, and Global LAVA is definitely an indication of this, is that we like to be the entry point for anybody from outside of LA coming to the ecosystem who are trying to find their way around. So hopefully wherever you enter into the ecosystem, if you've kind of found LAVA, we'll be able to get you with 1 or 2 hops through the network to the places that you need to go. So Global LAVA, and we've got LAVA Bio, we've got Canna LAVA, we've got Women in LAVA, we've got esports and gaming LAVA. So I hope you'll join us if you're specialized in one of those areas. Lava.org is our website, which you've probably already found. And we have a couple of big events coming up. Meet the VC in particular is coming up October 13th. If you're a startup, you definitely want to apply and get a chance to meet. We'll probably have close to 30, maybe 40 VCs that you'll have a chance to hear from, all of them, and then meet with those in your industry segment, be able to sort of have a Q&A face-to-face. Well, Zoom to Zoom, I guess, is probably the best way to describe that. Without further ado, I think we're also working on the LAVA Award. So if you know of things that were activities that were happening in 2019, please feel free to nominate those deals. We're still evaluating deals, so we're out taking nominations for best seed round, best A round, sort of best types of startups that have happened, especially if you know of any celebrities that were involved. So I can see the numbers have slowed down coming in now. So going back to Global LAVA, our committee, each one of our communities is run by a committee, and our committee in Global LAVA has been fantastic. We've done events in, we weren't in there, but we've done events on Africa, Latin America. They can talk about some of the other ones too. I mean, we've really been going around Europe. We've been really going around the world. Obviously, this one is on India. Our 2 co-chairs for that are Sharon Raybinder and Michael McClune. Sharon represents the folks who want you to invest or bring your company to Grenoble. And Michael has an international incubator here in LA well, I'll let him describe it when he gets up here. But I'd like to thank both of them. I think now would be a good time for them to show their faces and join me on screen. There they are, Sharon, Michael.
Hi there.
Thank you both for your hard work. And I will leave you to introduce the panelists.
I'm just going to say a quick 2 words. Yes, I'm Sharon Raybinder. I work for the Grenoble area and the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region in France. I help people understand opportunities there, and I also end up helping the companies that come from France into Los Angeles, and actually I cover North America for the region. But I'm very happy to be part of LAVA, and we've done a series of events. Our first one was Europe and the UK, and I'll let Darren explain the rest. I encourage you all to join LAVA. It's a great organization. Thanks.
Thanks, Sharon. I'm Michael McClune, and I run the International Business Accelerator. We're the first US accelerator with the international cross-border perspective. We're still the only sector-agnostic business accelerator that focuses on cross-border growth. Obviously, India is a big destination market for the smartest of the founders. That's why this is our first country-specific event that we're doing with Global LAVA. I want to be a little self-promotional here and say that we just launched our online accelerator. So it's an on-demand accelerator for anybody who wants to take their business or idea cross-border. So again, we're geo-agnostic, sector-agnostic. It's an accelerator program, and it comes with one-on-one coaching with international business experts, and we can solve any problem and issue that you'll encounter as you expand cross-border. So talking about India, it's exciting for us to have these panelists and to focus on India because of the potential that's there, particularly here in LA, and the founders that are here. I read that India went from 10 billion to 14 billion from 18 to 2019, which puts it ahead of both Germany and France as far as VC fund and raising for their startups. We are big on the public sector, so I can see the effects of the governmental efforts to do a three-pronged approach to help the ecosystem, both within India and attracting companies from abroad. The first one is to reduce the compliance and the regulatory red tape. Second one is just straight up financial assistance, whether that be grants or loans or incentives. And the third one, which I think is often overlooked, is the academia and the innovation connection. So if you're a U.S. startup, now more than ever, you can approach the U.S. government, the Indian government, and they can facilitate a play on innovation and put you in touch with the academia world there, which which is going to help you here, obviously, with innovation. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our moderator, Dr. Kala Seal. He has two very impressive titles at Loyola Marymount University, of which he's been a leader for like 2.5 decades or so. So thank you, Kala, for moderating, and I'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael, Sharon, and Darren for inviting me. Again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, event on Lava's event on India. I'm the moderator, and I think, again, quickly my background. I am originally from India, but I'm working at Loyola Marymount University for about 30 years. I am in the information systems and the business analytics department, and I just have been, because I guess, they say that when you reach your height of, incompetence, then you become a administrator. And so I'm now also the department chair. I have the pleasure of having an amazing panelists today to talk about India. A lot of them have experiences, really ground level work, written books, articles, all kinds of different things. So we'll get into that. And I can actually talk about the panelists, but I think it would be best that if they introduce themselves. So you will see that, to be able to understand India, it takes a little bit of, I will say, mindset. It takes a little bit of understanding, and they will talk about that. There is a joke which says that, one Indian is a great company, 2 Indians are friends, and 3 Indians make 2 political parties. Well, today we have 4 Indians out here, so I think, we probably will end up making 3 political parties by the time we are done. With that, and without further ado, then I'm going to just go in the order of Gunjan, Smita, and Hershel to kind of introduce themselves, and then we'll start with the panel discussion. So over to you, Gunjan.
Thank you so much, Kala, and thanks to Global Lava for hosting this event. So several years ago, I was approached by one of the companies here. It's long enough ago that I can mention the name, Raytheon, and they wanted to understand India better, and they asked me, as is typical of an aerospace company, to write a long and complicated proposal about it. And then they came back a couple of months later, say, well, actually, we found another solution. We worked with this large university, not Loyola Marymount, another one, not in the local area. And they said, we are going to use their resources. And I forgot all about it. A few months later, I get a call from the Thunderbirds Graduate School in Phoenix, Arizona, saying, this unnamed aerospace company wants to run an India program, and would you be kind enough to be able to do it for us? And the point I'm trying to make is that most people in the United States see me and my company as the India expert, and no matter where you turn, it will end up coming back to Amrit or to Gunjan one way or the other. For a more formal introduction, I'm a graduate of the IIT Kanpur, the Indian Institute of Technology at Kanpur, which was set up during President Kennedy's time by Caltech and MIT and 7 other American universities. I was also the president of their Global Alumni Association for a number of years. I've written a book on doing business in India, but my day job is really helping large and small companies to understand India. And it's really done mostly in the form of stories and interpretation and nuances. So I'm happy to get into that as this program proceeds. Thank you very much, Kala.
Thank you. Thank you, Gunjan. Over to Smita.
Thank you, Kala. This is, I'm Smita Bagla, and my association with India is that I was born there since and grew up there, studied there, and came here. And I am an angel investor, a serial entrepreneur with 2 exits, and I am also a board advisor with startups, and I take interim CXO roles at startups. I am the past president of the Indus Entrepreneur Organization in Southern California. I ran it for 2018 and 2019. And during that time, we got together and made our first investment into startups in the Southern California chapter. Everybody as a Thai SoCal Angels. Earlier, some of us were making investments, but it was not combined. And then we started looking at how we could help the startup ecosystem here as angel investors, bringing different venture companies as well as private equity firms to startups. So I, during the 2 years, did a lot of investment as well as advisory while I was the president. And now I continue on with the Thai Global Angels and also helped Thai women women founders all over, as well as, mentor startups. So that is my introduction with Lava. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita. And then over to Hershel.
Hi, Kala, and thanks, Lava, for having me. I do angel investing on the behalf of my family here in Los Angeles. The family's based in Mumbai, India. As a family, we've invested in over 150 startups now. We run a early stage accelerator called 100X, which is mandated to do 100 pre-seed first check deals a year in India. I run our US operations and also invest alongside Smita and Gunjan. So enjoying the LA community and as well as the startup community in general. In fact, one of our major value propositions is if there is a pathway into India, which is a challenging one, as we'll discuss in the panel, I'm sure. Our family is useful because we do run something called Core Media, which is the largest IT media company. So having access into certain CIOs and CTOs in the subcontinent gives specific insights into what these Indian corporates like to hear. So I'm very happy to share our knowledge and kind of the do's and don'ts.
Thank you, Hershel. So there are 3 questions. So the way I think, we're going to go is I'm going to ask the question. And once again, we can start with Gunjan, Smita, Hershel. Second one, we'll go the other way around. And then in the third one, I will decide, maybe I'll start with you, Smita, and then go Gunjan and Hershel, just to kind of, break the order and bring in maybe a little bit of, just variety. And let's say that we have a total of 30 minutes. So about, if you go about 3 minutes, each one of you on each of the questions. And then, so 3 questions together, that will be 30 minutes. And then we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A. Okay, does that sound like a plan? So about 3 minutes for each one of them. So our first question, going to Gunjan, is what a US company needs to have ready domestically for the cross-border growth?
Yeah, so first of all, let me be clear. If you look for the India-US border on a map, you're not going to find it, right? And yet the 2 countries are as close together today as you can imagine. When I started Amrit more than 15 years ago, the bilateral trade was less than $20 billion. India's trade was less than Belgium's trade with the United States. And today, that number is $150 billion, okay? So if I get on a plane to fly to India, it's a Boeing plane. I go to the airport, I pass through these rapid scan machines made by Deepak Chopra's company here in Southern California. I land at Delhi Airport, and Delhi Airport's backup generators are powered by Kohler, which is a Wisconsin-based company. My employees in India use Hewlett-Packard computers. They wear Levi's jeans. They drink Coke and Pepsi, and their favorite snack is a product called Kurkure. You say, why am I talking about Kurkure? Well, Kurkure is owned by Frito-Lay. Okay? And what I'm trying to say is that the average Indian encounters an American company or an American product many, many times in the day. And of course, when Facebook bought WhatsApp a few years ago for whatever, $20 billion or so, most of WhatsApp users were in India. Most Americans hadn't even heard of WhatsApp. Okay. So every day there is a strong interaction between the two countries. Some of you might know that the CEO of IBM is an Indian American, the CEO of Microsoft and Google, and even for Albertson stores is an Indian American. Okay. I'm saying all of this because many people still think of the old India, you know, from 20 plus years ago. And there's much, much more interaction than simply the guy or gal who answers your tech support question when you call an 800 number, okay? India's economy today is among the top 5, really only Japan, United States, China, and Germany are larger. India's economy is supposed to cross France and the UK this year or so, okay? And so there's plenty of opportunity to want to do business there. And the old paradigms have changed. So if you were talking to me 5 years ago, and you'll find this in many articles and books, that before you go to India, think about Canada and Mexico and Europe and Latin America. And at the end of that whole process, you think of India. Well, I can tell you that many of our clients in the last year have been companies who have chosen to go to India as their first international market. Okay, we are currently helping a number of startups who are in that kind of mode, where they are looking at India as their very first global entry. And this can be in the space of medical devices, where India has unique needs. This can be in the space of digital health. This can be in the space of telecom, where there's a huge transformation going on today with what's happening with 4G and India's largest petrochemical company turning itself into a telecom company with over $20 billion of investment that have gone to India during the pandemic. You know, during the pandemic, Reliance India has managed to garner over $20 billion of American money. So big changes are happening that sometimes don't get reported in the same way that you might expect to see with other kinds of activities. If you are a startup or a growing company and you want to think about India, I think it's not premature to look at it at any stage. Today, the political alignment between the two countries has never been stronger. You know, when I started my company, I used to say India is not China and India is not like China. Well, every 5 years I say that yet again, but the meaning of that sentence changes. So today, India is not China because the Washington administration is not focused on destroying the trade with India. It's actually focused on increasing the trade with India. And so you have the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, and President Donald Trump having visited India in the last couple of years. Okay? And so India is very much the darling of the of the Washington establishment today. The whole name of the Pacific region now has been renamed to the Indo-Pacific region. And that's a very specific jab by the Washington, D.C. establishment at China. Okay, so good or bad, that is kind of what is happening. And if you're looking at India as an opportunity, there's never been a better time than now to do it. So in terms of preparing what you need to do, you just need to be ready that you can deal with international business. And then you should look at India. Not everybody is right for India, and India is not right for everybody. So don't let me leave you with the impression that everyone on this call should jump and go to India. At least half the people who come to us, we tell them, no, don't go to India. It's not right for you. Okay, and I can get into more about that later on.
Thank you, Gunjan. Over to you, Smita. Smita, you are muted.
Thank you. Thanks, Gunjan, and thanks, Kala. So people who want to go to India. So superficially, India looks very similar to the US. People speak English. Everybody in India loves US products. They love US the way of doing things, as well as they look like, when you see today's India, everything is very, very similar. And people believe that, as you're doing work here, as you are doing your company here, it would be similar to work in India. But just like India, so India is really a kaleidoscope of multiple cultures. What would work in one area of the country may not work in another area of the country. So just like from here, if you are a West Coast company, what all do you need to prepare for an East Coast company? You need to be aware of what are the local things that you need to be aware of. What is the local parameters? How would you expand and sell in a different market? If suppose you go to, a different segment of the country's population, what all you do. So you need to be aware of that. And then the other thing one needs to be very aware of is to engage somebody who understands India. It's not a plug for my husband's company. It's just that you do need somebody who will be able to explain to you what is required. So there are VCs, just like Hershel has said, just like Gunjan had said, there are different people who will be able to guide you as to where you need, what you need to expand on. Then the other things that I would say, that metros are very big cities. The metros, they're called metros, like Bangalore, like Mumbai. They look very similar to what you have here. So if you are going into one of those areas and you have a company that is a nonprofit company or a social impact company, you would do different things. If you are doing something that's for-profit company, you would do different things. So if you engage somebody who could help you through, an advisor who could guide you through, that will help you prepare for India. It's not as easy as it would look like superficially.
Thank you, Smita. And then to you, Hershel.
Yeah, so Smita and Gunjan, like super solid points, totally correct. And this is a plug for Gunjan's company. The reality is, out of the 30 odd investments I've made here, the value proposition that I bring to the table is, look, we have insights into India. If you need relevant introductions, we can help. I'm playing in early stage, seed stage companies that are just starting, that may not have product market fit here in the US. 90+% of them should not be going to India until they get some major funding. So domestically, you have to make sure you have some sort of product market fit before you assess the Indian market, unless you're making a product that's inherently Indian. And I would say that you need to connect with somebody like a Gunjan, like Amrit, or somebody boots on ground, something that you can franchise in India. It's a very challenging market to actually crack. And one of the biggest reasons why we say no, not yet, is simply pricing. And we're also big believers in boots on the ground. The country's hard to navigate. These companies like Uber and these high flying startups that are very well capitalized, they lose money in India, but they have to look at it. It's too big to ignore. But when you're a small company, unless it's something that's inherently you feel like you can have product market fit, and if you do, then I would engage somebody that understands the market, that connect you with the right people there. So domestically, I would say make sure your chickens are in line and you know what you're doing here. I would before looking at India, I would make sure I'm tied up here, and then that I know people there, and I have people on my side here that understand the market to manage it. Things get very challenging. Even building tech stacks in India. India has probably the most engineers, qualified engineers, young engineers that the world can offer. But even building tech in India is challenging. You need to know who is legit, who's not. A lot of teams that you see out there, they have like 10 projects going on at once, and your project won't get serviced correctly. So the right way to kind of look at it, if you're even looking to transact with Indians in general, is to have somebody there, or somebody that that can manage the team there. Especially being American, it's not snap your fingers and go. Like I said, pricing is probably the biggest one. So we have an app that maybe they charge $3 a month here to access it. That doesn't fly in India. The pricing model has to be different. The team has to be different, and even the content has to be different. So really local insights are crucial before entering.
Thank you, Hershel. I think Gunjan Smita and Hershel, all of them said that before you actually go to India, try to know a little bit about India, and if you have any domestic connections, then do your homework domestically. Make sure that you start understanding the countries, understanding that what are the opportunities. And the next question I think is nicely follows, and that starts with Hershel. It's that, okay, so now I have made the decision to go to India. So what are the things that I can expect in terms of opportunities and challenges once I'm there, with the boots on the ground? Because as you said that, I have had people who go into India, even after reading about them, and their first reaction was, oh my God. So that's the question that, it needs to know or expect when the boots are in the ground.
Yeah. So nothing in India is certain. We've seen it many, many times. I mean, we've invested in Singapore companies and in companies that are domiciled elsewhere, run by Indians. For example, RBI can come out tomorrow and say, okay, crypto is illegal. And it happened to one of our startups, the largest Indian exchange. Then all of a sudden they're handcuffed. Then 2 months later, they release, the Supreme Court says, no, it's fine. Well, guess what? Now another bill is in there. So there is uncertainty. There is certain bureaucracies that are challenging. So expect the unexpected is what I would imagine. And I'm sure Gunjan and Smita would echo it. That being said, a point that Smita brought up that I think is really, really poignant is when you look at India as a market, you're looking at the second largest English-speaking population in the world. So what that lends itself to is kind of ease of transition of use, right? You have a population that's relatively educated, that's exposed to the West, that, everybody in India probably has a cousin in the UK or the US, so they're globally aware. And and they're young, right? So it is in a very attractive market. When you do feel like you're ready to expand and you have the right team, just note that India won't be your profit driver. It won't be your largest market. And if it is, great. I would imagine that the HQ there would really need to go. For a good example is ByteDance. So ByteDance has a product called TikTok, which is huge, one of the largest social media apps in the world, and the government just came out and outright banned TikTok in India. Now, India had the largest user base on TikTok, so you would think ByteDance, oh my gosh, ByteDance valuation is going to go down tremendously. Literally, TikTok was like, the India population was a sliver of TikTok's revenue, like not even 1% kind of thing. So I don't have high expectations. India's a volume game, and you have to be patient. That's one of the bigger things is you can do business. It's gotten easier, but patience would be key.
Thank you, Hershel. Smita, over to you.
Thank you, Hershel. Thanks. You brought up very interesting points, and so going on the same thing, there are lots and lots of rules and regulations and license fees and bureaucratic baggage that exists in India. And it's in a way because it has coming from a very strict background of, things are controlled by the government and others. So that's why we have that over there. So again, it is important that you be aware of it. You don't get blindsided with it. So the ease of transition would be if you partner with somebody who would help you navigate those things. Again, it is something that you need to be fully aware. And the other thing is a lot of people think that this is a quick buck, that we would be able to go and, we have the best product in the world and we have the best technology in the world, and it really is going to solve a problem and we will be turned to profit very soon. It is a patience game. It takes time. It takes time in India. In India, a lot of things still are done based on relationships. People have to trust you, and everyone pretty much that don't get blindsided with people who are talking to you or showing you spiffy literature, because everybody there has an angle. Everybody's just like Hershel said, everybody has a cousin who's doing something in America or is doing something in UK or is helping you. So you have to be very careful and take it with a grain of salt, and also do your due diligence is to like basically to understand who is helping you and why they are helping you, what could be the angle, what are the different bureaucratic and license fees that are there. So one of the stories is one of the founders that I was working with, they went to India, they got a big grant from one of the health funds in India because they were solving malaria problems. However, all the regulations in making sure that they could get set up and get moving in order to do their first set of, they set up a subsidiary in India. That took a long time for them. Then going through and trying to create, the actual material and the medical device and the test that they wanted to produce, it took a lot of regulations and license fees that they were not aware of. But fortunately, they had very nice help, and the people from the India Health Fund helped them through that they were able to get set up. And it is 5 years now, and now they're turning it into a profit. So patience is key, and due diligence is key, and making sure that you have somebody who will guide you through and navigate you through if you're an early stage startup. That's important.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita. Gunjan, on the same question.
So I think both Herschel and Smita had made very important points. And while I hear them both saying positive things about the work I do, let me kind of be a little bit contrarian and kind of educate the audience in the way these things work. So you don't have to work with a person of Indian origin to be successful in India. I mean, much as I would be delighted that you only consider working with me, I have to be fair. This is not a sales pitch. There are Americans who understand India just as well as I do. You have to find them. And there are Indians who have no clue about India. Okay. Just because they were born in India and they came to this country, they may understand the US much better than they understand India. They go back only for vacations and they are clueless about India. Right? So you have to find someone whom you can trust, who understands India. The other important thing that I think I have seen as a marker of success for companies, regardless of how small or large they are, that the people dealing with India at the company must have a sense of humility and curiosity. And let me demonstrate that by an example. So one of my favorite clients was a guy named Ken. And we were in Delhi, in rush hour traffic in Gurgaon, which is a suburb of Delhi. And it was 5 or 5:30 when we were done with our last meeting. We were getting ready in our rented car with a chauffeur to go back to our hotel, and he said, no, I want to take public transport. I want to see how the Delhi metro feels like. Okay. And I think that was probably the most important decision he made while he was in India for the first week, because he really wanted to experience India as Indians do. And he probably learned more on that hour and a half metro ride. I didn't go with him. One of my colleagues went with him just to kind of feel protective about him. But Ken did a fabulous thing by actually absorbing what was happening in India. I'll give you another example of my client, Mark, whose company I can name. They are the largest pistachio grower in the world, based right here in Southern California. And when Mark and I went to India, all of the pistachio distributors in India wanted to come to our hotel near Connaught Place in central New Delhi to meet us. And Mark and I decided, no, we were going to go into the depths of old Delhi in the narrow lanes where these companies were based and meet them at their place of business, which sometimes was as tiny as a little kiosk, but they might be doing $20 million a year of imports from that little kiosk. So these were very significant entrepreneurs, and they were amazed that we actually showed up in the July and June heat to visit them in their little places of business. But in the long term, that is what became a marker of success. And you see American almonds and California almonds and California pistachios all over India today. And a lot of this was based on the humility and curiosity of the early people who dealt with India. So I think those attributes are extremely important when you look at a faraway market such as India. And today there is a demand in India across many, many sectors, right? So it doesn't matter whether you are in consumer products, medical devices, health products, defense. India is the largest buyer of defense products in the world. And Boeing, Northrop, Lockheed, all of them have been extremely successful, as have many smaller companies. One of our clients made the small sights that go on the top of guns that the police and the Indian Army use. And it's a very small value item, relatively speaking, but a very important item for the success of the military and paramilitary and police forces in India. You also need to know why you are going to India. Is it the market? Is it for Indian talent? And is it for the supply chain? India is good at all three, okay? But you have to know what you're going for. We advised an education-related company, and they wanted Infosys as their first client. So we actually got them appointments with Infosys, Wipro, and TCS in Bangalore. And the CEO thought that he would impress them by saying that he could outsource the technology behind his company to these outfits. And I advised Dan, I said, don't even bring that up, because you're a 6-person company. And these guys are interested in technology deals that run into 20, 30, 40 million dollars. So by enticing them with outsourcing, you are actually insulting them rather than attracting them. Just focus on the product and service that you have to offer. And that's what will help you succeed. Another little story I have is from a famous company that I won't name. And they were presenting to the Indian government and a large group. On the very second slide of their presentation, I said they're sunk. And they're sunk for a very simple reason that most people don't realize. They showed a map of India. Okay. And I think, Kala, you know where I'm going with that. Okay. If you get your map of India from National Geographic or from the US government, and you show that in India, you're dead in the water right there. Because the Indian government and the Indian people imagine borders that don't exist. But those are the only legal borders that you can show in India. And if you're trying to sell a defense product and you show parts of India as belonging to Pakistan or China, and you're trying to sell to the Indian government, you might as well have shot yourself in the foot or the head. Okay. So you have to be careful about the sensitivities about the different cultures. And that's very important for success in India. I could give you mirror image stories about the United States, where we have our own sensitivities here, and maybe we can get into that during Q&A. But humility and curiosity are really important to succeed in India.
Thank you. We are almost on time, just a little short. So, Batin, I think still okay. And thank you again, for being on time and then giving all of this wonderful, wonderful advice. As I said, I think our next one is, as Jerry Maguire, they said in Jerry Maguire, show me the money, right? So what financing tools and funding options are available in India? And as I said, I'm going to start in the middle at the time. I'm going to start with you, Ms. Smita, and then I'll go to Hershel and then come back to Gunjan. So Smita, to you.
Thank you. So for funding wise, there are a lot of different options. And I would like to point out that most Indian companies who are VCs, or if they are angel investors, they have assets as well as US representative. So in order to find those fundings, it is just approaching them similar to what you have here in terms of like, if suppose you have Sequoia Capital has an arm here. They also operate in India. And if you are doing a product that will, or a service that would benefit India and you want to grow there, then when you go into India, there are a lot of limitations as well as concerns as to keeping the money of its investment in India. So Sequoia Capital India would invest in you. You have to show that you're benefiting India somehow or the other. So there are various options. There's VCs, there are funds, there are high net worth individuals, and then there are grants. So you have to be careful as to where you want to, not to figure out where you want to be. There are a lot of grants also available in India from, like, as I mentioned, the health fund as well as different areas where if you're doing something that will benefit the Indian rural areas, the Indian economy, and it would benefit India if it's a social impact or a nonprofit organization that you are trying to build over there, then sometimes you would be able to get grants to come up with your pilots, as well as to get money to be able to solve the problem in India. However, if you are a for-profit company and you want to show that this is something that would help India, going to one of these funds would help you get a pilot grant money. But that's just a part of it. If you are a for-profit startup and you have your own, you want to expand into India, a lot of ways people would like to do is they would get the investment within India from high net worth individuals. The rules and regulations over there are a little bit different. The RBI controls for the high net worth individuals. For the funds, it's controlled by SEBI over there as to what the limited partners want. So they won't be able to invest here when you are seeking for investment in America from India. However, if they do, if those funds and the companies, the VC funds, they work cross-border, they have in their investment thesis that they do work in US, India, both, then you would be able to get funding from them to work here as well as expand into India. And there are a lot of private equity firms also that are there. Some of the firms that you would probably know, even Bain Capital operates cross-border, Nexus, PwC. Then there are some Indian funds called KKR in India that will show up here. So there are many, many different options, but you have to do your due diligence and find out the company whose investment thesis is that will help you. I can expand more during Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you. And then over to you, Hershel, about funding.
Yeah, so in terms of financing, it's going to be similar to what you have here. The reality is that, as your company scales, and this is a part of a venture association, so I'm assuming most of the companies are seed or pre-seed type companies. It's the same situation. It will be expensive to enter. You probably won't make money for some time. The reality is, if you're in it for the long run and you're able to capture market share, it's a lot of people. So things like that become very attractive. So you have to understand that there will be burn, there will be challenges. The financing tools, the funding tools are exactly the same. If you can convince an investor that you understand this space, you're working with the right partner, and that the market is worth going after, you'll probably get a check. And if you take that check and do it correctly and capture any sort of market size, then your company becomes exponentially valuable. See, the thing with India is the user base, the data, this is all very valuable. And if you're long on India, which Gunjan Smita Bagla and myself are all very long on India, then this becomes invaluable over time. When Facebook bought WhatsApp, WhatsApp was not making money. The reason they bought it was because of the hold on the Indian user base and what that meant for the future. If we look at it today, WhatsApp is an invaluable asset for Facebook. It is like that $19 billion purchase was probably cheap, which is insane to think about. And it's because now the Indian user base is using WhatsApp like we use Slack or like we use anything else. It's a huge tool out there. And now they have WhatsApp Pay, WhatsApp Commerce. Like this, I invested in a company that's doing a WhatsApp-enabled Shopify tool. So this is like, you have to really assess it, and the funding is the same process. Raising, like as a U.S. company, raising from Indian investors is very challenging because their ticket sizes and valuation expectations are different. But nonetheless, if you do secure an Indian investor, it's invaluable because if they can help you scale, the long-term kind of outlook on your company is big. India is one of these places. It's like what they say about New York, right? If you could make it in India, you can make it anywhere, and I think it holds true. So yeah, happy to expand on it Q&A as well.
Thank you, Hershel. And Gunjan, back to you, about 3 minutes.
So as they say in in Washington, I will yield back most of my time to the Q&A session. I think Hershel and Smita have covered this extremely well. I would only clarify a couple of small points. Number one, RBI is the Reserve Bank of India, and it's similar to the Federal Reserve in the US, but it also has regulatory responsibilities. So foreign exchange control, foreign investment are somewhat regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. It is not based in New Delhi, the capital. It's actually headquartered for the most part in Mumbai, which is essentially the financial capital of India. The second thing I wanted to say is that sometimes things can happen extremely rapidly in India. And I'll give you one example of that. Again, going back to our pistachio client, they wanted, when they first entered India, Reliance was expanding its retail network. And Reliance said, we'd like to buy a container load for our store in Baroda. And I sent one of my employees and they found an empty plot of land where they wanted to open this store. And my Indian team was continually surprised when I sent them on these missions. And he said, there's no way that by August 15th, which is India's Independence Day, that there'll be a functioning store here. Well, they underestimated Reliance, as so many other people have done. And sure enough, on August 13th, a fully functional store was there. And on August 15th, it was wide open. And right at the front of that store was a large display of wonderful pistachios. And it did extremely well. And in the long run, Reliance Retail and others became very good customers for our client. So India will continually surprise you. Sometimes it will disappoint you, but sometimes it could be in the other direction as well. And you just have to be ready. Again, if you're listening carefully, you can make this happen. So I'll stop there, Kala, and we can go on to the Q&A if you like.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, very, very wise, I think, advisors that's coming from all three of you who have worked with India, understand India. There are some questions. So is it okay if I just ask the question and then you can decide, or should I just direct the question to a particular person? How do you want to handle it? Okay. So okay, yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's your choice.
So, I mean, I think I'm going to direct it to someone or one person, and then, if anybody has any kind of follow-up on that, then we'll go with that. So I'm asking, so all of the panelists are back. So one of the question, I think this one is, somewhat, again, the question is that if we make an Indian market entry, is it insane to attack the subcontinent as a whole with India as a beachhead? And I will ask Gunjan to kind of answer that question.
Yeah, so I assume that this anonymous attendee, when they say the subcontinent as a whole with India as a beachhead, is talking about, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and, Bangladesh. Those are all interesting countries, but it's like saying, if I want to enter the United States, should I think of, Guatemala and, the Central American countries, as part of that larger entity. India is the behemoth, the other countries there are much smaller. So occasionally it makes sense. We did have a wound management startup that started in Nepal because they could get regulatory approval for some initial clinical trials very quickly in Nepal. But for the most part, India is so much bigger than the other countries in that South Asian region that you really need to make your decision based on India. And sometimes, you certainly don't want to put Pakistan and India in the same bucket. I had a small Northern California company want to send a Pakistani American to sell defense products into India. And I said, you might as well, send, it's like throwing her into the lion's den. She's not going to come back with anything. So you have to be conscious of those issues about the local internal politics. India itself has a population larger than all of Europe. India has 23 languages, and they are more different from each other than French is from Italian. So when you think of India, you're really, if you're looking at the consumer market in India, you're really thinking about entering Europe rather than entering Germany, right? So on the B2B side, that's not so much the case. But yeah, so attacking the subcontinent as a whole, or even attacking India as a whole, for most startups is unrealistic unless you are in the pure digital space. Okay. Other than that, our medical device clients, our consumer product clients, typically they will either focus on one vertical segment in India or one product line out of their product lines, or one region. The population around the New Delhi metropolitan area, what they call the National Capital Region, is about 40 million people. That's about the population of Taiwan. So, you want to enter Delhi and Mumbai at the same time, that's, as a startup, going to consume a tremendous amount of your energy. Okay. So you have to be careful how big of the size of a bite of the apple you want to make. There are exceptions, like I said, where it makes sense to go with a national media campaign and a purely digital product. But those are rarer than other cases.
Thank you, Gunjan. The next one is to Smita. It was mentioned that it's important to vet your partners. What are the best ways to do that? Would it be through government or through private screeners? How do you vet your partners? How do you know that, yes, you're getting into a good marriage, so to say?
So what my suggestion would be, you have to vet your partners. There is an organization that helps you get into India, and their name is, Gunjan, could you help me with the name over there? The name of the organization that helps people with India?
Are you talking about Invest India?
In the name, the government organization that helps.
Yeah, that's Invest India, I think, was what you're talking about.
Right. So Government of India also has a lot of different people that will be able to help you with, but they can only help you with certain areas. It is, in many ways, it's better to have somebody who is on your side, who understands America as well as India. As Gunjan had said earlier, there are a lot of Americans who have lived in India, worked in India, they set up offices in India, and they are also very, very capable of understanding. So if you suppose have an investment partner like Hershel and others who have an India branch, they would be able to guide you. If you have somebody who is a private company who has set up offices in India, they would be helpful in guiding you. But you need to vet them, means understand the knowledge about different areas. And of course, companies like Amrit and others are available to able to help you. They are the best bet because they have been doing this as a work. So you have both avenues available. It depends upon how much you want to spend, and it also depends upon where you want to expand into, which part of India. I hope that answers the question. If anybody else wants to add to it.
Yeah, just on that point, it's never been easier. This was like way harder to do 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Like vetting was like a big issue. Even getting on a call with somebody was hard. So things have gotten much better in this capacity. So it's not like you're sending money to a prince in Nigeria kind of thing. That's like not really how it works in India anymore. There's enough resources out there for you to be able to do research, and even IBA would be able to help as well. So there's enough out there for you to do it properly.
Thank you. And Hershel, I think it's going to be the last question, just because of the time. We are 5:56. So this is from Gary O'Connor, who says, what might be the appetite in India for investing in a fully patented California wind engine? It's urban aviation, avian friendly, etc. If they're looking for a second prototype funding. So the first one has been done, but the second prototype is needed. What do you think will be the opportunity in India or appetite in India? It's a question from Gary O'Connor.
With the largest Gen Z population in India, clean tech is becoming kind of the norm. I think we're going to see a big increase in like kind of EV and things like that. I don't know much about wind farming. Generally speaking, people do get nervous about hardware, but honestly, that it is in the right space, and India would have the right appetite in the next 10, 20 years for clean tech products. I would imagine kind of connecting with people in that space would be able to provide more information. I have no clue about wind farms and wind energy in the subcontinent. In fact, my knowledge is even limited here. I would have to kind of lean. I would ask you that if you were pitching me, that would be a question I would ask you. So it's one of these things where the macro trend is correct. I don't know if the adoption is ready or what the market looks like. What I do know is I'm long on electric vehicles, particularly two-wheelers and three-wheelers and the infrastructure that comes with that. I'm long on solar. Wind, I can't answer. I'm sorry. Maybe another panelist may know.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that. There is a strong appetite for better utilization of wind energy in India. Along the west coast of India, there are wind farms. In southern India, I visited an American company that was making the blades for the windmills in Chennai at an export zone. And I visited ITC, their paper factories. ITC is a company that sells cigarettes and owns hotels and many other properties. But at their paper factory in India, they were essentially wind powered through an off-site wind farm. So there is quite an appetite for alternate forms of energy. Now, whether there is an appetite to invest in an early stage startup that doesn't appear to have revenue, from an Indian entity, I think that's another question. And you really would have to look at strategic investors, companies in India that are already in that space. I think is where I would start because they may have an understanding of the market. If there's some special angle that would apply to India, then that would get them excited possibly. So, but if you just go to the average Indian investor, I think you're going to get a response, very similar to what you heard from Hershel, that this is not a space that they're focused on.
Just quickly, I would just add one more thing, is wind is very much connected with the government, and one of the startups had gone for these wind power energy to the government organizations, to the government, the heads of the government, and worked with them to get that. So there might be some grants available. So if you research, you might be able to find somebody who would be able to help you with initial pilot program if you're looking for, or guide you where to get more if it is going to benefit India.
Thank you. We are, on the hour. So, but, I think I'm just going to have these quick rapid fire questions instead of me, summarizing this so that at least, they get a sense of this. And it is going to be one question to each of you, and then just quickly answer that. So I'm going to start, Smita, with you. 2 words to describe India in 5 to 10 years.
Superpower.
And second one?
You said 2 words. Okay.
2 words, yeah.
Fun place.
Okay. Fun and superpower. Excellent. The next one is going to be for Hershel. 2 common mistakes people make when they are in India.
When visiting or like trying to do?
When trying to do business in India.
I would say underestimating price sensitivity of corporates and individuals. I think that's one. And then I would think I would say underestimating the quality of specific individuals. What happens in India is you end up like meeting a lot of people. Like it's volume, and 50% of people are going to be really kind of not people you want to know or not people you want to be around. So then you get jaded, and then you end up missing out on the 10% that are dynamic, that are wonderful people that you want close. So you just have to kind of sift through the noise. So don't underestimate people, because things are hard at first.
Okay, so underestimating the price sensitivity and underestimating the talent in the people. Excellent. And then the last one to Gunjan, complete the sentence. When in India, please never
eat on the street. Even before COVID.
Well, then you're missing out all of the fun. But thank you very much. Thank you again, everybody here. And thank you, Lava, for inviting us. Hopefully, it was great fun for me. And hopefully, it was also enjoyable for all of you. And For the audience, my apology for not being able to get to all of the questions, but I do not know, Darren, you can say that, can they contact the panelists individually? What happens? So over to you, Darren.
Great. Well, thank you all, Dr. Seal, Hershel, Smita, and Gunjan. Really appreciate the answers, the insights. I think I've started doing this now. So the things I've learned are that there's definite price sensitivity there, but a huge appetite for clean energy. Data. I mean, I don't think that it fails anywhere, but it sounds to me like data and knowing your user is pure gold in India as far as getting in there. I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking one final question, how much does language, you mentioned 23, I just learned, I didn't realize there were 23 different languages in India. It sounds a lot like, Indonesia has a lot of different cultures with 17,000 different islands. How challenging is doing business with the language, or does everyone mostly kind of have a sense of English when you're going around?
I can take that if you want. So for any question in India, there are two possible answers, and I'll give you both very quickly. So most business in India is conducted in English. Even the Indian government, which says Hindi is the official language, they will write their memos and letters in English and then translate them into Hindi and put the Hindi before the English.
I see.
That's typically what they do. Okay, now the rub is that people in India speak Indian English. They do not speak American English. Okay, and just as Churchill said, the United States and the UK are two countries divided by a common language. That very much applies to India. And there are many words that you can hear in India that you will never hear in the United States. At the end of a document, for example, you might have something called an annexure. What in the world is an annexure? Well, it's an appendix.
Okay.
And so on. In my book, there's a whole glossary at the end that talks about Indian English. And on our website at Amrit, there is also the most popular Indian English dictionary. Now that can teach you the words, but it won't teach you the paragraphs and the sentences. Okay.
Well, thank you. So I've learned more things. And then
Can I add to it, Darren? Just
Sure.
1 minute. Sure. So one more thing about the English speaking is that in India, a lot of people are very agreeable. So if you say something, even if it's the same language, you ask a question, they will answer yes. But that yes will not mean that I agree with you. It means I heard you.
I heard
So
you.
understand that nuance.
Just
Upward.
It's like Japan too.
Yes.
One more thing. If you're dealing with Indians on developers or anything, and if an Indian ever tells you, you ask them, hey, what's going on with this? And they respond back, don't worry about it. You should definitely worry.
Agreed.
Don't
Total
worry about it.
points.
Ultimate deflection of I have not done anything. So just that's a little tidbit I've learned.
Yes. Right, Hershel? Yes. I heard your question.
So what I advise people is to watch this Disney movie called The $1 Million Arm. It has some very interesting scenes about how to succeed in India and how to fail. It's a wonderful, entertaining movie, but I use it in my India workshops quite a bit.
Excellent. I think Michael wanted to ask a question really fast too. I know the attendees seem to be sticking around, and it looks like one of them has their hand up. I would say, go ahead, Michael.
I had a quick question, respectful of time. If you guys could give me a scale of 1 to 10, how reliable compared to the United States is the rule of law in India? Now, I don't want to get into intellectual property rights and protection, all that. That's a whole different hour. But on a 1 to 10, as a US founder, what can I expect the rule of law to be in everyday business? 10 being dependable.
It's case by case. It's like you're dealing with people, and there's a lot of people in India, and a lot of people are not. It's hard to find good people anywhere. I would say though that when traveling in India, I'm American, right? But when I travel in India, it's easy for me to go around, not get noticed. The minute I open my mouth, I would say like there's a portion of Indians that would see me as, they wouldn't see me as like a person, they'd see me as a dollar. So kind of assessing how impatient people are, that's like a really good indication of who you're dealing with. If someone is pushing, and you can sense any kind of like, oh, send the money, or hey, like, let's do this, then they're not going to be following any rules. But
my question was more like contractual agreements.
Sure.
How are they enforced? Are they enforced? Is it more of a, I need to trust you before I sign anything? Or is it, okay, we're going to sign this and then we expect the same thing?
So
Okay, so
reputable.
let me try and give a
Listen.
two-part, sorry, Smita, go ahead.
So much for the 1 in 10 scale.
So I'll give a short answer, and then Gunjan, you can expand on it, or the others. So just this quick thing is that for founders and for others is that, you know, the IP as well as what they're doing contractually, and they're getting it signed as they go to the reputable companies and they're making partnerships and everything. Those are totally fine. Like, people do agree and abide by them. Those are not some things that you would do. It's the commonplace, like you know, in-person working where the law is not contractual, that there might be some concerns, or dealing with some other issues, that is like how to deal with getting the license fees and others, that might be a little bit variable over there. Gunjan, to you, you can expand onto something like that more.
Right. So first of all, the structure of the laws in India is very recognizable because it is based on the same British system of law that the United States law is based on. So unlike Japan and China, where their basic structure is very different, you don't have that issue, right? Secondly, the government of India does not systematically violate international protocols and intellectual property rights, as one other country, which I will not name, is known to do, okay? Thirdly, if you do not have trust with your partners and the people you are doing business with, the contracts are really immaterial. Okay, if you have to go to court, even in this country, even here in California, if you have to go to court, you've already lost. Your lawyers and their lawyers have won. Okay, and that's true in India as well. Okay, the best I can do in terms of anecdote is to quote Rupert Murdoch when he spoke at the Milken conference a few years ago, at a time when he was married to Wendy Murdoch, a Chinese native, and he said that they had taken, you know, twice they had gone to the Indian Supreme Court to, you know, to insist on their rights, and both times the Indian Supreme Court had ruled in the favor of News Corp, okay, and against the Indian party. Okay, and he said they hadn't seen that kind of confidence in systems elsewhere. Now, of course, News Corp has lots of money to spend on lawyers in the Indian Supreme Court, which startups generally don't. Yeah. So it's a long answer to your question, Michael, but really it's about trust first and contracts second. I have known Indian partners to go way beyond what the contract required them to do numerous times, and they've done it out of loyalty and out of faith and out of trust. Okay. And that's, you know, if you have the right partner, that's what's going to happen.
Any reputable Indian corporation is going to be following the rules pretty stringently. So, you know, companies like Wipro and Infosys, they work with every company in the world, and you've never heard one scandal other than some CEO scandal stuff, but you won't hear anything else coming out in terms of them stealing intellectual property or doing something where they underperform. These are some of the largest companies in India, and even listed on the New York Stock Exchange kind of stuff. So reputable firms follow the rules as they're supposed to. It's like the small guys that you should be worried about.
And so on a scale of 1 to 10 that Michael asked, Michael, it's more like a 9 because there's always some gotchas as anywhere.
Well, I think that's a good answer. I'm getting the high sign. I think we need to let the panelists go. I know there's a couple of hands up, and there was another question or two in the Q&A. The LinkedIn profiles for the speakers were posted in chat, and they're available. I believe that you guys check your messages in LinkedIn. So I think you can address those questions to the panelists that way. I'm sorry we can't get to it today with the time that we have. I would just say I'm going to wrap up by closing out my last 2 things that I learned today. Humility and awareness is definitely something as far as listening carefully to the other side when you get to India, and not only know your regional politics, but know your cartography. is don't show up with your kids' National Geographic maps. So thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciated the information and the insights about, I think a lot of the information that you gave today was also good for just startups in general. So once again, thank you all. I will jump in and just put another plug. If you've got a startup, or if you know some folks who are in their startups, have them apply to the Meet the VC event. And also, if you know of deals that closed in 2019, please put them, send them my way and let me know, nominate them for possible awardees in the Lava Awards coming up either later this month or in this fall. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye to everyone, and take care.
Michael, bye.